Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Woman to Woman TV show. This evening, we're going to be talking about squatters in Illinois, laws regarding their rights, squatters' rights, and the owner's liabilities until the squatters are gone. And I'm telling you,
Hmm.
there are a lot of liabilities when you own the property and somebody's coming in and taking it over and you still got to pay. Welcome to the show,
Oh,
everyone.
good.
Yes, and State Rep Evans, it's a pleasure to have you come on. And would you take just a moment to tell people who you are and what district you're covering, and just give us a little background about you? The man that got the governor to sign the bill.
Okay, look, now don't get me in trouble. I didn't do it all by myself because y- when something good happens, is
Yes.
usually a black woman somewhere around doing something. And that black woman is my colleague, State Senator Lakeisha Collins.
Okay.
So she's actually the sponsor and she crafted the legislation.
Okay.
And so she's the chief sponsor of the legislation.
All right.
And I voted for it, but
Now,
she
yeah,
really
thank
did
you.
all the work. So get a black woman her
All
law. She
right.
did
Let's
all
let's
the
give
work.
her let's give her a due.
Yeah, Lakeisha Collins from the West Side.
All right.
But the reason why I became involved is because a squatter moved on my block,
Yeah.
and I got to watch up close. And some of you all may have experienced it. Just what happens when people take advantage of other folks. It's a terrible thing to watch up close. Particularly, look, none of us rich. Your house or a piece of property is kind of a big deal for working class people. And for
That's right.
somebody to come and obstruct on it like this,
Yes.
is so terrible. And the law wasn't doing anything to protect.
Nothing to
You know,
protect.
so
Let's
this
let's show
bill.
let's show them a little clip about what happened.
That is right, Liz and Mark. It is another case of alleged squatting in Chicago, but this one is unique. The alleged squatters moved next to State Representative Marcus Evans' home. He said they picked the wrong block, and his community will not stand for this.
I knew it was a problem, but to watch it up close, right on my own block, right here in Avalon Park, it's been wild.
Illinois State Representative Marcus Evans is getting a front row seat to what some are calling a crisis in Illinois. Earlier this week, alleged squatters moved into his next door neighbor's home. He says the whole block is outraged.
Surprised us all to take over these folks' property. Squatting, it shouldn't be allowed.
The real property owners, Linda Gomez and Rodrigo Leva, say they recently put this house on the market. When they came to check on it this week, they say the locks had been changed and a family they've never seen before moved inside.
They open and say, hey, this is my house. I say, no, excuse me, that's my house.
The couple recorded this video of the alleged squatter. They say the family initially claimed they had bought the house, but when police arrived, they changed their story, claiming they rented the home and signed a lease. Police ultimately said they couldn't remove the people inside and referred the homeowners to the eviction courts. That's the current process under Illinois law, and it can take months.
It's not easy to be, working hard for something, and these people just showing like nothing and break into your house. It's a lot of frustration.
My neighbor, she say, oh, call to Samantha.
It's a story we've been uncovering for months now. Squatting in Illinois, a statewide fight. In May, Illinois lawmakers passed the squatter bill, which would give police the power to remove squatters from someone's property the moment the rightful owner can prove it's theirs. The bill is currently sitting on Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's desk. The bill's co-author, State Representative LaShawn Ford, says it's imperative the governor sign this bill into law.
It's happening all over the state, and so shining a light today to show the governor again that his action is necessary immediately.
I'm going to be calling the governor today, calling the office and asking him to immediately sign this.
Sign it. Just sign it, It's all you got to do, right?
I reached out to the governor's office to find out if they plan on signing the squatter bill, if the governor does, into law. A spokesperson said he has not established a timetable for it yet. As for the people inside the home, I knocked on the door multiple times to see if they would come out, share their side of the story, and still no word from them. So unclear what's going on there, but apparently they claim that they signed a lease with someone, but the owners are saying you didn't sign a lease with us, so they want them out.
Well, we know you'll stay on top of it.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Just waiting for that signature at this point. Okay. Thank you, Samantha.
You know, I mean, how did you even discover that they were there?
Well, living on a block, I'm serious about engaging with my neighbors. So, we talk and we keep an eye on each other. We're neighbors of all ages.
Yeah.
And these individuals, it was a family, a Mexican family, and they purchased the home. And so we would see them, we watching, when there's somebody on the block. And, we get to know them as they were fixing up the house. Because the woman that lived there prior to them taking it over, she, one a relative had passed. So we knew the house. And to have these squatters come on and just start telling lies, saying that they had been there for months. And, we watched this up close. We're not going to stand for anybody being taken advantage of.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I appreciate that. So, okay. The vet, we have a couple of reporters on. The vet is on. The vet, you have a question for the state rep?
Good evening. Good evening, State Representative. Just listening to what you're saying, and I'm quite sure this is happening not only in Chicago but around, throughout the country, and so I do wonder. Okay, there is such a thing as squatters' rights. So how do you defend that? You know, uh, and I guess by changing the laws, that may very well be beneficial because it's not fair. And but the question would be, how do you enforce it?
Yeah, by changing the law and allowing the authorities, whether it's the police or the sheriff's office, to not allow folks to squat on folks' property, to obstruct their property, obviously illegally. Now, you have legitimate squatters issues where you have someone, don't want to get evicted erroneously, confusion on ownership of property. There's many, many legitimate legal things to be worked out. What this bill does, was sponsored by my colleague Lakeisha Collins, Omar Williams, and so many others. LaShawn Ford was a big push, and signed by the governor. This issue is about crooks and schemers taking hardworking people's property, and the law can never be so accommodating to crooks. We have to make sure that the law is protecting the hardworking citizens of the United States. And what happens is, some crooks are good. They figure out ways to scheme the law. And when we see they're doing it, I think it's our responsibility to change the law. The law is a living document. And, our job is to make sure that schemers and the evil folks aren't using laws for their best interest. And that's what was happening. And it wasn't intentional, it was happening. And we shored up the law. And now it's going to be harder for these schemers and liars to steal folks' property and really waste a lot of time and extort people for money.
That's right. Oh, I'm so glad. I am so glad.
Joining me now is the co-author of this squatters bill in Illinois, State Representative LaShawn Ford. Thank you for joining us. Illinois finally taking action here. How bad have things gotten?
Brooke Schaefer, thank you for taking this up. It is bad when you have actual people stealing the properties of landlords and property owners and having no way to, landlords having no way to evict them other than taking them to court as if they're real tenants. It's dangerous for landlords. It's dangerous for the squatters because Illinois is a concealed carry state and people are using their weapons to get people out of their properties.
Whenever I see these kinds of stories, I always wonder how this even started. I mean, how does this even happen where homeowners are forced to defend themselves against somebody just living on their property?
Yeah, it's easy because what the law allows now until the governor actually signs the bill, it says that if you go into a property, change the locks, you could take possession of that property and you would be considered a legal tenant with legal standing. What the law that we passed in Illinois is doing is taking away the legal standing of a squatter and giving the police the authority to remove them as a trespasser. And that's what this bill will do. And when it's law, police will now be able to, with the owner of the property, with proof, take them away in handcuffs for trespassing.
Without this law, walk us through the process of what an owner would have to do and have to go through to get potentially this stranger out of their home.
It is amazing. An owner would have to, they would have to file an eviction, give the squatter, the trespasser, a 5-day notice, and take them to court to have them removed as if they were a legal tenant. This law says if you're not a legal tenant, you could be arrested for trespassing. So it takes away the legal standing of a trespasser, and it puts them in their rightful place as a trespasser and distinguish between the two, a legal tenant and a person that actually steals a person's property. What we've seen in Illinois, people actually change the locks, get utilities in their name, and become a legal tenant in the property, even without the consent of the property owner.
An extremely complicated and I'd imagine expensive process for the homeowner.
We've had people, Brooke, that have had people for 8 to 9 months in their properties and they can't get them out because they may have children, and the courts are kind to people with children. You don't put them out in winter months in Chicago when there's a certain amount of snow or the temperatures are at a certain temperature. They can't be evicted. And so now tenants have to make sure, landlords and property owners have to make sure that they're very vigilant of their properties and immediately file for trespasser to be removed. It's critical because we have people that have spent thousands and thousands of dollars in eviction court paying lawyers to get a trespasser out. We've had people in Illinois actually pay $10,000 to a trespasser just to get them out of their property so that they can sell it, only to find out after they got them out, gave them the $10,000, it was going to cost them even more money to repair the damages that they found at their property.
Why do you think it's gotten to this point where states like yours now need to step in and bring in new legislation?
Well, I would tell you that you have a lot of slick people out there, and those are not the homeless people. Those are slick people. Homeless people have more dignity than a squatter. Squatters steal from people. They find out how to beat the system. When we work with the homeless population, they go through a process. They sleep in a shelter. They may sleep in the car. They may sleep in a park, in tents, but they're not taking people's properties. These are crooks, criminals that are taking people's properties because they know how to beat the system. But in Illinois, we're changing the law, and we're going to distinguish between a tenant and a trespasser. And we're not only are we going to lock them up, but the property owners are going to get their properties back.
That's neat. That is neat. All right. Well, sir, is there anything you would like to leave with our viewers in terms of any recommendations? What should they do? Should they have a squatter uh, other than follow the procedures? Is what you suggest? They should call the police, I guess. Go to court, take the people to court, and then after they take them to court, and then the sheriff serves them, right? What happens after that? The sheriff literally comes out and moves them out.
Well, the previous woman, and I forgot her name, I had to look, was asking about how the enforcement is going to take place, and that's what's being worked out now. All of the details of enforcement is being discussed, but I think what we can do is say we're not going to deal with liars, schemers, and squatters trying to take over our communities, right? That's
Okay.
really what this bill is saying. That's what this stance is saying. I'm not talking about disputes or homeless people. These ain't homeless people.
Right.
These are dirty schemers.
People
And
taking property just because they can.
that's what I'm saying. People who do wrong obviously should not be able to operate in comfort. We as a community can stand against the wrong, the obvious wrong, and then we can argue all the other stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Squatting on people's property is obviously wrong. We all agree, and we should have a law to reflect that agreement, which is we don't support knowing, goodness well, these people, and it was two young black people, and I was so disappointed in them. They had a fake lease. First they said they was renting a house. Then they said they had been there for months trying to lie on us and get us to lie with them. See, squatters are not people that's in need of housing. It's people who just want to be wrong. They want to scheme and lie, and we shouldn't support that. I don't support it, and that's what I think this situation is about. As good citizens, we can stick together against the bad. We don't support bad behavior in my community. And my colleague, uh, State Senator Lakeisha Collins, she took it to action, and I supported that. And all of the state reps in Springfield and state senators, particularly the black ones, we banded together to solve this problem. Yep.
Thank you so much. Lavette has her hand raised again. You have another question or
Yeah, go
statement?
ahead.
I understand where you're coming from, and I guess that's an issue with a lot of crooks,
Mhm.
and we have them even in leadership positions. I was watching one of the representatives from he is from he's a black lawmaker from what city is this? Um, well, anyway, they were building an airport in his in where he lives, and so he went to represent 75,000 people from his district, and they told him that he was not allowed in. So, so that was Representative Justin Jones from I forgot
He's
from
in Tennessee.
what? Yes, Tennessee. I was about to say that.
Mhm.
And so it was the Elon Musk airport being built, and they let the Republican lawmakers in. Now this is his district, and they would not let him in. And so people are boldened to do the things that they're doing because they're seeing people in leadership do crooked things right before their very eyes. So we are in chaos because here you're trying to represent something that's good and that's correct. And just watching the news shows such corruption that they are doing it right in front of your face. So that's just a correlation to just the kind of people that we're dealing with, not only locally but nationally. And so I guess my question would be not that the kind of squatters that you're talking about, but say for instance, if people were squatting for reasons of needing uh for not being homeless or unhoused, then I would like to know at some point what is our legislation doing to combat that? Because if, on one hand, you do want to protect the community against scammers, but on the other hand, you're going to have those that stand up that says, well, there are squatters' rights, and I can do this because it is a right. So, how do we um, provide housing? And I tell you, one thing that I approve of Mayor Brandon uh, is that he's changing the laws, which has been in effect for 90 years for housing and the way that you can redevelop your house or maybe add on to your property to combat homelessness. And so I think we need to also talk about what other creative ways that we can build housing. And I think that
Yes.
unfortunately in Chicago, most of the housing that's being developed right now is almost $1 million per apartment. And
Mm,
I'm not understanding that at all.
mm,
Most of the
Yeah, well, but
housing.
your issue, your now just to make, I want to make sure I get to your question too,
Mm-hmm,
because
sure.
your question is, let's not in any way connect or conflate in any way homelessness and squatting, thieving, scheming criminals, right?
Exactly.
So we
Exactly.
must, because I always hear the story of, I'm just selling drugs so I can feed my family. I don't
Mm-hmm,
support any level of criminal scheming,
Illicit
community destroying
activity.
activity for any
Yes,
reason whatsoever.
absolutely.
My cousins and people I know who sell drugs, who rob people and kill and steal, there's no reason to do those things ever, ever, ever. So I don't support those things. People have to do what they have to do, but we must, as a society, definitely oppose scheming on every level. We support us and leadership. We're locking up politicians as well. So we have a standard that we don't support it. Now your issue with
Right.
homelessness, since the beginning of time, there's been homelessness, and there'll always be homelessness. Some homelessness is mental illness because folks don't even want to
Mm-hmm.
go to. So we have some folks who are drug addicted and mental. I've had mental illness and drug addiction in my family. That is an aspect
Mm-hmm.
of homelessness that's going to need a lot of support. But what the mayor is doing is saying he believes in helping homeless people, so he's investing money. What we have to do is tell politicians to invest the money, because what happens is your political budget is a reflection of your priorities. Okay. And that's something we have to remind ourselves. We collect state tax money, federal tax money, and city tax money. The politicians decide what to do with the money. If we don't tell them what we want, they do what they want to do. So we all must tell politicians how we would like to spend the money. The previous mayor did not care about homeless people, so we didn't spend a lot of money on homeless services. This mayor, Mayor Johnson, his brother suffered from mental illness and homelessness. So he cares about homelessness. He's investing city money in homelessness. That's the only difference. We've always spent money on homelessness. We just didn't spend a lot because nobody cared. But Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Johnson cares. So he's taking his personal feelings and he's investing in what he cares about. That is the only difference. And as a society, we have to determine what we care about. If we care, then we'll invest in it. That's how government money works. Your
I love
Right.
priorities are
your
aligned with. Yeah.
explanation
So,
about that. I love hearing your explanation about why Brandon is doing what he's doing
yes,
because
he cares
Right. And
about
I
that.
agree. I agree with you on how the distribution differs with different people. And
Yes.
and so I talked to Alderman Burnett about the tiny house movement,
Mm-hmm.
and in other cities, it's successful, and you're building homes for people at $80,000, $90,000, which is sufficient. And here in Chicago, everything that's going up is like on in my neighborhood in East Garfield Park, everything that's going up is $500,000. And so we are contributing to homelessness. So I don't want to take away from the issue that you have, because that is a totally different issue than
Yes.
homelessness. So we've got to not support that kind of activity that's
Mm-hmm.
that's that's crooked and downright wrong. But in the meantime, let's open up another door and talk about how we stop the developers from coming in here building crackerjack houses at $500,000 and then uprooting the legacy residents that's been in the community, and now they're faced with homelessness. So this conversation just needs to expand to a holistic presentation of homelessness, houselessness, scams, and all of the above. So I
Well, and I
appreciate
only
all
keep
of
the
that your
and we only keep
input.
the conversation separate because those who scheme and do wrong in every aspect always looking for sympathy. Sympathy is how crooks drive themselves. I'm only robbing these people because I don't have a place to live. See, having and this is a fine line with the housing situation, these real estate crooks are not even homeless. Like the people who were squatting on my block, they're not poor and homeless. These are sophisticated real estate thieves. So I just like to make sure we have a hard line separation on the squatting situation. Even in housing court, these people are not homeless. These people, if you talk to any judge that works in housing court, they'll tell you these scammers are good at paperwork. They have printers and computers. They know exactly what they're doing. But you know, Alderman Burnett helped to develop the west side of Chicago, and the West Loop is very beautiful, but I can't afford to live over there either. So part of the issue is we do have to have city council people and who help the mayor to understand that we have to develop affordable housing. A $500,000 house is not affordable, and that's common sense. I don't know why they're voting on this stuff. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why are they building $600,000 houses in Kenwood? I'm not sure.
Right,
Okay,
right,
again,
right,
it does.
right.
It's not common sense. So the aldermen and the people that's celebrating the development of houses that black people can't afford is insane. It's
It
insanity.
is. It
Okay,
is.
and what
A
happens is they're
representative.
celebrating. It's insanity. So we have
Rep,
to
mhm.
push against it. So,
A representative. One other thing. I've been, looking at the housing developments that's
mhm,
going in the community. You'll see their sort of European design um, structures, and some of them are being built based on um, a new kind of uh, heating, cooling technology. And when they're done, They start off, this is going to cost $26 million for 40 units.